Hi, I'm Greymouse. In this video we're looking at different Apple II archive formats. Let's look at one of the more common archival format, which is a shrinkit file. Shrinkit files have the extensions SHK. So by looking at the contents of this disk, we have got 3 of them. How to extract a shrinkit file to a blank ProDOS formatted disk, as well as creating a shrinkit file. So you need a copy of shrinkit and you need a blank formatted ProDOS disk. Alright, so that's ready. We'll reboot into the shrinkit program. I'm using shrinkit version 3.4 here. Start by putting the data disk into drive 1, which is the disk that we created on the previous 2 videos. Let's extract a shrinkit file. So I've got the data disk in drive 1 and a blank ProDOS disk in drive 2. Start by doing a catalogue of drive 1 just to see what the file names are. It's the data disk, so press enter on that one. Enter again. Let's do pmm.shrink. Go to Open Archive. And we go down to the bottom one. Okay, this is the contents of the shrinkit file, and we'd like to extract all these files. So we press spacebar and then the down arrow to select all 3 files. Put ticks beside each one to extract. Press enter. It's asking me where I'd like to extract the files to, and we'd like to use the blank volume, so press tab. This is the one, and press enter. Done. Let's check the contents of the disk. And these are the extracted files. Now I'll show you how to create a Shrinkit file. We've got the data disk in drive 1 and the blank disk in drive 2. We're going to find a file on the data disk to shrink. New archive. And we're just going to archive some files. And we'll select a couple of text files. Okay, so we're using the up and down arrow keys to select and spacebar to select the file, and the files with the ticks beside them will be archived. Okay, so it's detected the blank disk and it's asking me for a file name. You have to add the .shrinkit file extension to it as well, so I'll just call this docs. Let's take a look. There it is on the very bottom. Let's see if we can open it. And there's the contents of the Shrinkit file, ready to use. Alright, how about shrinking up an entire disk? Let's do that next. Put a blank disk into drive 2. just format the disk that I was using before. Okay. Yep, that's fine. So I've put the disk I'm going to shrink into a file into drive 1. So let's have a look at the contents of that one. Yep, it's this one. And it's another ProDOS disk. So let's make an archive out of this one. New archive. This time choose disk. We're going to archive the Angel volume or disk in drive 1. And we have to change the destination folder to the blank disk. So press tab here and type in a file name. Including the extension. So instead of shrinking files, we're now shrinking an entire disk. Done. Let's have a look. Right, that's how you shrink files as well as an entire disk ready for transfer. Let's have a look at another archive format, zip file format. As you see there, there is one zip file. I'll show you how to extract this zip file and create a zip file. We're going to be using a program called Angel to do that. In drive 1 I'll put in Angel, the disk Angel, and in drive 2 I'll put in the data disk. Okay, let's reboot. We're looking at version 0.81. Press enter. First thing you have to do is change the volume to the data volume. To do that, press 0. And go down and select data. And this is the contents of the data disk. Looking at the bottom of the screen, it says the destination for the Angel disk. We need to change that, so press tab to change the volume. Now both the source and destination is data. Go down to the zip file using the arrow keys and press enter. This is the contents of the zip file, and hit enter again to extract the readme file. You have to keep the Angel disk in drive 1 because it uses it quite regularly. Now that's done, press escape to close this window. And the readme file is on the bottom, so we go down to it and press V for view. Let's go about creating a zip file. Press escape to get back to the main menu. Now to zip a file, you highlight the file you want to zip up. So let's do the proarch.txt. Press open Apple, and then Z. So open Apple Z. So now it's creating a zip file. There we have it, the zip.d file. Let's have a look at the contents of that zip file. There you have it. And that is how you extract and create zip files. Now onto my favorite file format, the Binscii file format. It's my favorite because of the number of steps you have to do to get it working and what it actually is. Extension for them is Binscii, and they're basically ASCII files from binary files, believe it or not. Using copy2+, and I'll show you the contents of a Binscii file. This is the one that we're going to be working with. As you can see, it is a text file, and there's a description of what the text is. It's a shrinkit file of a program called Disk Encryption Standard, and it is a shrinkit file of 140K, which is basically the size of a disk. What makes it unique is that it is ASCII text that's been used on message boards, through emails, and on BBSs, and it's basically a binary file which has been converted into a text file. It's got a standard header, which is file start, and then it's got the ASCII files. So I'll quickly scroll through this file so you get an idea of the contents of it. The idea being that all you have to do is copy and paste this text into your message, or BBS message, or on a forum, and you can just copy it to another Apple disk and save it as a text file, and use the Binscii program to convert it back into a shrinkit file, which is quite remarkable, really. So let's take a look on how it's done. And here we have the end of file. Let's boot up the Binscii floppy disk. We're going to be using copy2+ quite frequently, so keep that disk handy. Okay, the disk doesn't boot, so let's fix that up. We'll boot up copy2+ again. In another video I posted earlier, I had a workaround for getting a no ProDOS boot disk working. I've actually found out in the meantime how to actually make it work. So I've popped the Binscii floppy disk into drive 2 while keeping copy 2 plus into drive 1 because we need to copy files off the copy 2 plus disk. Okay, so we have to make some more room to copy the files that we need in order to make this a bootable ProDOS disk. So I'll delete some files. Now copy the files that I required to make the disk boot over from the copy 2 plus disk. I'll relabel the disk from blank. Now one more thing to do, we need to rename the sys file to be a system file, otherwise ProDOS still won't boot. Okay, I'll put that disk into drive 1 and see if it boots up now. Excellent. Now that's working, we're going to use copy 2 plus again, and we're going to copy a Binscii file that we are going to unconvert, which is a text file back to a ProDOS file. So let's reboot it into copy 2 plus. So I'll put the Binscii disk into drive 1 and I'll put the data disk into drive 2 and we'll copy a BSQ file over. Now that's copied over, we'll insert a blank ProDOS formatted disk into drive 2. Just quickly check to see if the file has successfully copied. Good. Reboot with the Binscii program in drive 1 and the blank ProDOS disk in drive 2. Begin with U, pressing U. This is asking for the source file name, and that's coming off the Binscii disk. So we don't need to specify a path on this one or a volume. And would like this file to go onto the blank volumes. Backspace and change this to blank. So it's going now, it's converting the text file back into a stringit file. Done. Let's have a look at the stringit file using copy2+. Okay, looking good. Now this Shrinkit file takes up an entire disk when unextracted, so we need to format yet another blank disk, and it has to be formatted in ProDOS to extract this file to it. Let's do that now. That's done. Now we will use the Shrinkit program to have a look at the archive to see if it's okay. I'm using Shrinkit version 3.4. Right, so we put the disk with the Shrinkit file on it into drive 1 and leave the blank disk in drive 2. Go to open, and the Shrinkit file's on the blank volume. That's the file, so press enter again. That's the contents of the Shrinkit file, so press enter again. Now it's asking me where I would like to unpack it, so we'll put it on the new.disk. Okay. Great. Okay. Let's see if that disk works by booting it up. voila! And to think it came from a text file. How's that, eh? That's pretty cool, I reckon. Wondering, how do I convert my own Shrinkit files to Binscii files? Well, let's do that now. Start by rebooting into Copy2 Plus and preparing some things. Put in the data disk in drive 1 and we'll copy a shrink file over to the blank disk. Check the disk that we just copied to. Okay, let's convert this into a Binscii text file. Reboot into Binscii. This time we're going to choose C, convert. It's asking me where I'd like to save the resulting Binscii files to, so we have to change that to blank. Now it's asking me for the file that I'd like to convert. Including the extension. And we're going to use number 1, carriage return, for Apple. It's creating a Binscii file, or files, depending on how large it is. So it's created 2 text files. Let's have a look at them in Copy2 Plus N. There is file 1 with the correct header, ready for copying and pasting to whatever forum you want to use. You've made it to the end of my video somehow. If you found this video useful, please let me know in the comment section. Like this video and feel free to share or subscribe. Thanks for watching.